live. Let me see if I can turn down this audio real quick. Just kill that audio real quick. We are live, originating out of YouTube, just posted up on Facebook, and we have got another great show for you. I'm tickled pink. I don't know, yesterday at the beginning of the program, something very interesting happened. I was real upset because I saw this report from, there we go, from Christiane Amanpour. She did this report trying to make mention about Kristallnacht on November 9th, 1938. Kristallnacht was when paramilitary troops moved in, and civilians moved in on the civilian community, the Jews in Germany, and started breaking the glasses and breaking through their businesses and all that kind of stuff. And what had me upset is she should have just reported on that, the anniversary in 1938 of Kristallnacht, when before Nazi Germany came into being, and the horrible things that they started doing to the Jews. Kristallnacht means broken glass, if I didn't make mention about that. But what she did that made me so mad is in her report, she's doing this 30, 45-second thing about Kristallnacht and the horrible things were happening to the Jews and blah, 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 and then transitioned it into Donald Trump and saying that Donald Trump was purging his enemies. It just absolutely mind-blowing. Well, guess what? You just got to love it. Doesn't take very long now, does it? Let me see if I can take that graphic out. There we go. Well, the world reacted to it as well. After online, when I was live yesterday speaking about this, the world reacted to the same thing that I reacted to. And look at this. This is from England. The Mail Online. CNN anchor Christiane Amanpour apologizes for comparing the Trump administration to a brutal Kristallnacht crackdown by Nazis on Jewish people in Germany. I mean, Israel went nuts. They absolutely went nuts over that report that Christiane did. So, and again, I made the point yesterday, what is news? Why is there no punishment? Why is there no reaction? How can someone go on national, international television and just absolutely lie and smear and, oh, I'm sorry. That's all that ever happens is, I'm sorry. She's not sorry. She knew exactly what she was doing. She's been doing this type of thing for decades. But anyway, I wanted to bring up to the point that the world reacted to that. And before I forget, I seem to be forgetting, well, because I got 57, 11 dozen jobs I'm doing all at one time. Again, right now we are live via YouTube, posted it over on Facebook. So if you want to talk to me, you can give me a call at 252-648-0474. Now, this is during the live webcast, folks. If you're watching this 3 weeks from now at 3 o'clock in the morning, don't call that telephone number because it's not going to be active. But so give me a call at 252-648-0474 if you have a question, a comment. Also, now that I'm thinking about this, for the folks that are logged in at YouTube, now that's a screenshot. Do you see over on the right-hand side? That's a live chat. You can get involved with a live chat on YouTube, and we can start talking about stuff. The whole goal, the whole purpose of all of this, by the way, is live and interactive. It's one thing for someone to do a show. It's another thing for someone to do a live show, and it's yet still another thing to do a live and interactive show. And that's the whole point and purpose of what I'm trying to accomplish here with going online, live, and interactive. Because I think I said this yesterday. Imagine if Christiane Amanpour did her little routine on live television, and then they cut to another commentator. We want to hear from you with what she just said. What are your comments? Give us a call at. Yeah. When was the last time you saw a news person do that? When was the last time you saw CNN taking phone calls just straight off the street and go, what do you think of our newscast? Nope, never going to happen. But that's what I want to do here. I want to give an outlet to folks. What I wanted to talk about last night, the president-elect, and Joe Biden too, was on television talking about supposedly it was about his economic plan. It was a 30-minute program, And there was no talk of that. There was talk about how horrible Trump is. There was talk about the coronavirus, which I'm not putting that down. But the whole purpose of his 30-minute program last night was supposed to be about the economy. Now, he did say things over and over again. He kept saying more union jobs, more union jobs, more union jobs. Okay, what about everybody else? Most of America is not union. But he said, I'm a union man. Well, that's, yeah, we understand. And everything else was basically about the coronavirus. Here's the thing. It was October 15th. Biden did a town hall with George Stephanopoulos, and they got to him talking about his economic plan. Now, like last night, he would say generic things. We're going to build infrastructure and bridges and roads. And he'd talk about spending. Always talking about spending. Never really, spending is not an economic plan. That's an economic plan for disaster. And we're going to talk about that a little later on. But back in October 15th, Biden had a live town hall, and he started to talk about George Stephanopoulos asked him about his economic plan. And I want to go to that. I want you to hear what he has to say. And then we're going to point out something that fact checkers, by the way, if you hear something, I'm talking about us being fact checkers. If you hear a president-elect, senator, I don't care who, if they say something, don't just go, oh, that sounds great. We're going to recover. He's got this widget thing and we're going to recover. Well, go find out about that widget thing. Let me get into it I'm going off on tangents here. Let me get into this right here.
You're going to raise the corporate tax. You're going to raise taxes on the wealthy. Is it wise to do even that when the economy is as weak as it is right now? Another 900,000 people.
That's a great question. Moody's did analysis of my detailed analysis of my tax plan and my economic plan. They said, I will in 4 years, Moody's, Wall Street, said I will create 18.6 million new jobs, good paying jobs, number one. Number two, and I'll increase, the GDP will grow by $1 trillion more than it would under Trump and 7 million more jobs than under Trump.
Let me stop him right there. Again, he's speaking in generic terms, but this is what I wanted to point out. He talked about Moody's. Moody's said his plan is great. Moody's, what he's talking about, it's a research group called Oxford Economics and a debt agency group called Moody's. And they got together and looked over Biden's plan. Did anybody happen in the news to go look at Biden's plan? No, they didn't. Well, I did. Let's take a look at this real quick. Hang on a second. Let me press the right button. This is what Biden was talking about. So you can see Oxford Economics just came out last September. This is what Biden was bragging about. They were bragging about his economic plan. Now look what it says. The very first paragraph. Joe Biden's fiscal policy proposals would provide the U.S. economy with a booster shot as it recovers from the global coronavirus recession. Now listen to this. While his $4 trillion tax increase proposal and his $7 trillion spending blueprint wouldn't pass the Senate, what? Moody's, the Oxford economic plan here that he was bragging about. First paragraph, they say two things. One, that he's going to raise taxes by $4 trillion, but he's going to spend $7 trillion. That leaves a $3 trillion debt. But right after that, they make it a point to say, this plan is not going to pass the Senate. It's not going to happen. It's not going to work. And to further that point, just continue reading here. Wouldn't pass the Senate. We recalibrated a Biden-like proposal that could. Again, understand what was just said there. There's Moody's. They said his plan's not going to work, so we went on and changed the numbers all around and made a new plan that would work. The real problem, or the continued problem, is debt. Biden's going to create more debt. Now, it is very, very spooky where we are in regards to debt. Now, I'm going to be skipping ahead of myself here. I had planned on doing something else, but let me just take a look here of, oh, we don't care about that. Let me just go skip up here. This is absolutely mind-blowing, people, in regards to during the Bill Clinton administration, the phrase came out, it's the economy, stupid, and that's what it is. It's the economy. We blow the economy, we've blown everything. We've already spent $6 trillion in this year, 2020, because of the coronavirus. We're now up almost at $24 trillion. Our debt is phenomenal. By next year, the GDP, gross domestic product, our debt's going to exceed our income. Take a look. Now, this, what I'm about to show you, comes from the Congressional Budget Office. Look at this. This is from the Congressional Budget Office. This is where we are right here. By 2021, we are going to exceed our income. We're going to be at 106% of the GDP. We have not been at this level since, you see this, World War II. We had to fund our men and women overseas, so that created a huge debt. Here we have, you can just see, just in 1 year, it just skyrockets. $6 trillion. A fourth of our debt happened this year. Now, this is the Congressional Budget Office information that I'm showing you right now. Our debt is going to skyrocket. So what does that mean? And see, I've always believed that the reason why talk of things like this doesn't bother anybody, or most people, is because they don't feel any pain. They hear the country's in debt, and that's all they hear, and they're not feeling any pain, so therefore they don't care. Well, guess what? We're about to feel a lot of pain. Let me see if I can just get into this real quick. Short-term effects. You see, this is where Biden has you rope-a-doped. He's going to take $4 trillion or $7 trillion, $4 trillion, and spread the wealth to everywhere, and homes are going to love it, businesses are going to love it, and everything's going to be cool and groovy. The economy is going to pick up during this coronavirus ordeal. Well, there's a problem with that. Let's look at this. Again, this is the Congressional Budget Office. This is not a Democrat thing. This is not a Republican thing. This is the CBO, which is part of the federal government that they will always be tasked with whenever there's a budget proposal, for example, they go on and flush it on out to see what it is. This is what's going to happen. In the short term, from 20 to 2023, the pandemic-related legislation will affect the economy through several channels. Now, what they're talking about right there is that there was approximately almost $3 trillion through 4 pieces of legislation that was just spent into the country to help business. You got your check. Most people got a check in the mail. Hi, you're a U.S. citizen, have money. So it was almost $3 trillion. So this is what they're talking about right here with the CBO. The pandemic-related legislation will affect the economy through several channels. Payments and tax credits issued to individuals will boost the overall demand for goods and services by providing resources to households, many of which have experienced a significant loss of income. Loans, grants, and tax benefits will provide liquidity to businesses experiencing financial distress, increasing the likelihood that they will survive and preserve jobs for their employees. Now, again, that's the short-term effect of this infusion of money. Now, where does this money come from? It's magically printed. That's where it comes from. That's why it's a debt. And what happens to a debt? A little thing called interest is always attached to a debt. So that 4 trillion turns into 6 trillion, turns into 10 trillion, turns into, hence that chart I showed you earlier, how everything is just, by starting next year, well, it actually started this year, our debt is just going to skyrocket. Now, let's go on and take a look what the CBO says about the longer term effects. And people, this ought to be a huge wake-up call. It's the economy, stupid. The legislation will increase federal debt as a percentage of GDP, and in the longer term, CBO expects that increase to raise borrowing costs, lower economic output, and reduce the income of U.S. households and businesses. In addition, the higher debt coming at a time when the longer-term path for debt was already high. So it just said, it'll raise borrowing costs. Now, what's a borrowing cost? A mortgage? A car? Prime interest rates? It goes and it says that a lower economic output. We're not going to be producing as much. It's going to reduce the income of households. That means your income, it's going to go down. Businesses, their income, going to go down. That's the longer term effect of this infusion of money. The short term effect of that infusion of money is going to be, there's going to be a benefit. It's like a sugar rush. It's exactly what it is. And what happens after the sugar rush? Whack. Again, I cannot stress this enough. This chart needs to be in everybody's brain. Look at that. We are right here. Next year at 106%. Our debt is going up. This is before somebody like Biden goes on and spends $4 trillion, $7 trillion, or whatever it is to artificially infuse. This is pandemic related. Here, right here, you see that shoot up? The pandemic and the monies that were spent towards it. There is a cost to doing business. A business, by the way, must be progressing forward. It must be making money, must be growing for it to stay alive. There is no stagnation for a business. You're either moving forward or you're going backwards. So it must thrive. If it's being artificially held up, and I'm talking business now because people work at businesses, so i.e. jobs. If a business is being artificially held up, what happens when you take the supports away? Bye-bye. But the problem is when your debt is greater than your income, and that's the country, you can't, you're borrowing, your interest rates skyrocket, the availability of things don't exist. We have a real problem. Now, I want you to think about this. Excuse me. Because people just think that, well, I don't have to worry, the government will bail me out. The businesses, the government will bail me out. At home, the government will bail me out. Socialism. Government will bail me out. Now, we're talking collapse. If the U.S. economy collapses, there's no bailout. There's no insurance. There's no loans. There's no food. So we have to be very, very careful. Avoid the sugar rush that Biden is talking about. And again, we just showed you that Moody's says this isn't even going to pass. It's not going to happen. It's too much. It's too big. And they went on and financed it and came up with their own program. Okay, I'll tell you what. Let's go on and switch gears right now. Where are we? Oh, yeah. Let's go back to Biden. In his economic remarks on the economy last night, which were remarks about Trump and how terrible he is and the coronavirus. Again, the coronavirus is nothing to sneeze at, pardon the pun. There's been like 250,000 people that have died since the coronavirus started here in the United States. That's just in the United States. On a normal year, 40 to 50,000 people die due to flu. We've now at 250,000 people have died. I don't know off the top of my head how many people have gotten sick or how many people have recovered from it. And the recovery rate is extremely high. But I wanted to go back into Biden that when he was talking about the coronavirus last night, and he's talking about Thanksgiving, and he's talking about masks. So let's just go on and start that up.
That governors are stepping up.
And just following up on that, especially with many states reporting new highs in terms of the daily number of cases and a lot of public health officials sounding the alarm over the holidays, what is your message to people who are considering, for example, getting together with their families and others for Thanksgiving? Would you urge people to reconsider their plans?
Well, here's what I'd do. Let me tell you what the health experts have said to me. And it's not because I'm unique and president-elect, it's because of my family. They strongly urge that if, in fact, we're going to have Thanksgiving with anyone, that we limit it to a maximum. They suggest 5 people, maximum 10 people, socially distanced wearing masks, and people who have quarantined. So Jill and I spent this morning, like many of you, trying to figure out what are we going to do for Thanksgiving? How are we going to do it? And we've narrowed down which family members and that they were tested.
I'm going to stop him right there. Quarantines and lockdowns, oh my, masks. We're going to be talking about masks and quarantines and things like that. And if we're going to have Thanksgiving, limiting it to 5 people. Let's go straight to the information. I want to show you something from the CDC, from the Center of Disease Control. Interesting information that we're going to be talking about in regards to masks, social distancing, and lockdowns. We're going to go to the CDC, we're going to go to WHO, the World Health Organization, and we're going to find out A, studies, B, what they recommend, and C, what we don't realize. There are a lot of things we don't realize, but I want to show you this report. This came out a couple of months ago from the CDC. Here, let me just scroll up so you can see that I'm not making this up. CDC, Center for Disease Control. What they did is they did a study. They had a control group and a non-control group of people that they wanted to see what would happen. They just followed them to see wearing masks, the effectiveness of wearing a mask and things like that. I'm not going to go through the whole, it gets kind of scientific-y, but you see that blue highlighted area there? It says in the 14 days before illness onset, 14 days before someone got sick in their case studies, 71% of case patients and 74% of control participants reported always using cloth face covering or other mask types in public. Now think about that. Up to 74% of the people for 2 weeks before the onset of getting sick, they were wearing a face mask in public. We're going to get into why here in just a second, but there's more with this report that I want you to see. I'm going to scroll on down. Here we go. Close contact with one or more persons with known COVID-19 was reported by 42% of the case patients. So these folks that are wearing a mask, and that got sick, 42% of them were in close contact. Let's just scroll on down here to here. Among adults with COVID-19, 42% reported close contact with a person with COVID-19, similar to what had been reported previously. Most close contact exposures were to who? Family members. Yep. So the people are wearing masks, and then they go home to someone sick, and then they get sick. Imagine that. But 74% of the people that wore masks all the time out in public, they go home with someone sick, and they get sick. Let's move on to, let me see if I can find this one. Here we go. Now, folks, I'll go on and I'll warn you right now, this might get a little bit dry, but this is mask facts. It's from the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons. There's some mind-blowing things. You know, well, I don't have it. I meant to have it here. Those cloth masks. Yeah. That's probably the worst, least effective thing. The N95 mask is the one. Let's see, do I have a picture of that somewhere? Let's see here. I should have, I did have, I don't have. The N95 mask is the one that they talk about that they approve that works most effectively. But even that mask, here's something else I just learned about the N95 mask, which is the best at straining out the bad stuff. That's for incoming. It does nothing for outgoing. Now listen to what I just said. With the N95 mask, that's helping you. It's screening out like 95% of the bad stuff, but it's doing nothing for the outgo. All right, let's go back into this little thing here with mask facts. Again, this is from the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons. This group has been around for something like 80 years. Now, again, it gets kind of dry. The theory behind mask wearing: source control. Cloth masks can trap droplets that come out of a person's mouth when they cough or sneeze. Protection, personal protective equipment. Only N95 mask, and that's personal. Again, that's protecting you and no one else. Let's see here. Let's get out of the boring stuff. Viruses transmitted through respiratory droplets produced when an infected person coughs, sneezes, or talks. Yeah, we knew that. Aerosol droplets can remain in the air for at least 3 hours. Did you know that? I didn't. Aerosol means they're small droplets, and you sneeze and they're out in the air. They're floating around for up to 3 hours. Look at this. Air currents. In an air-conditioned environment, these large droplets may travel farther. Ventilation, even the opening of the entrance door and a small window, can dilute the number of small droplets to 1/2 after 30 seconds. So have a well-ventilated area. Here, humidity. Who would have thought that things like ventilation, keep your doors and windows open, I know we're in November now, that would help tremendously. But this next thing about humidity, listen to this. Experiments showed that viral pathogen-carrying droplets were inactivated within shorter and shorter times as ambient humidity was increased. Dryness drives the small aerosol particles. So I don't know about you, but I would have thought the exact opposite. Higher humidity would have been a bad thing. Now we know that during the wintertime, the humidity is down. So these pathogens, the bad stuff, has a greater chance to float around in the air. I'm not a doctor, but one of the things I'm thinking that maybe a humidifier would help just in the house. If right here it shows that the stuff can't travel through it, doesn't like it, it likes the dry, maybe think about that, a humidifier. Let's go back to the preponderance of scientific evidence supports that aerosols play a critical role in the transmission. That's when the particles are getting real small. Masks. Here are the filter efficiency and fit. The HEPA. Yeah, filters 100%. Mask and respirators. They work by collecting particles, surgical masks and all. Here we go. N95 filtering face piece respirators are constructed from electric whatever. Where's the good stuff here? That's 0.3 microns. Here we go. The best mask for filtering the air in does not filter exhaled air. So think about that. If you happen to see somebody, and I apologize, I thought I had queued up the picture of that N95 mask. It is designed to do one thing, to stop the incoming. It does nothing to the outgoing. But as masks go, it gets worse. All cloth masks and materials had near zero efficiency at 0.3 microns, a particle size that's easily penetrated. That's the aerosol state that they were talking about. Look at the efficiency. A t-shirt has 10%, scarves 10 to 20%, cloth masks have a 10 to 30% efficiency. You'd be better off if you just stuck a towel around your head, because that's at 40%. Yep. Now, just right below that, the filtering efficiency, we just found out earlier that is 95 to 100%. Medical masks are just 55% efficient. Cloth masks, they just grouped it all together at 38%. Handkerchief at 2%. So let me just see if there's some other stuff in here. There's lots of stuff. This is actually an extremely long article that goes on to describe the efficiency of masks. But again, who would have thought that humidity would be a good thing? I don't know. Has anybody ever made a study and looked at the South as opposed to the North? We got more humid air down here than they do up there. Do they have a worse time? Well, I know places like New York City got whacked, but they're heavily concentrated. So that would be an interesting thing to find out. Now, the other thing that I wanted to make a comment about is, oh, William, don't tell me you don't have it up here. Yeah, I don't have it up here. Well, I'm going to just paraphrase it. The World Health Organization, WHO, they are not in favor of lockdowns. They are not in favor of masking everybody. There's an economic side to it. As a matter of fact, the World Bank has been screaming about look out for social distancing, look out for having to wear a mask and lockdowns. They don't want that. The CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, also did a similar study finding out the economic impact of social distancing. It slows everything down. But the World Health Organization is not in favor of lockdowns. Basically, they're going, why are you locking up the well people with sick people? That gets back to one of the things we showed earlier when 74% of the people wearing a mask got sick because they're going home to a sick person. So the name of the game, lockdown, no, it has severe economic ramifications. It has the World Health Organization, for health reasons, says don't lock down, you don't quarantine well people. And you don't quarantine them with sick people. These are all things we need to really think about, folks. I'm not going to tell you what to do this Thanksgiving. I tell you what I do, by the way, when I go out in public, I do wear a mask. Like if I go to Food Line or the grocery store and I'm going shopping, why do I do that? Well, if anything, for the respect and comfort of other people. I live in an area where there tends to be a lot of elderly people, which more prone to be sick. But I don't want them seeing me like this and, walk around me, stay away from me, or worry that night that, that I do something to them to make them sick. So I would encourage folks to be a good Christian. Think about the other person. Love thy neighbor. Uplift, as Paul was, and edify your neighbor. It's the Apostle Paul spoke about a lot. So just plop on a mask. Now, I know a lot of businesses, they don't care about a mask. And they said, you don't have to wear them. And I won't. But if I'm out in public, I will wear a mask. And I hope you do have Thanksgiving. I hope you do have family. I really do. I hope you do play it smart. Put on a mask. Go ahead. Realize that it's not the cure-all. That was one of the problems that the World Health Organization brought up, is people put on a mask and they now think they're immune. Well, they're not. The other thing the World Health Organization talks about is washing your hands. That's something because the virus can survive on surfaces. And you go right behind it and touch it, and there you go. So I know places, gyms, that they have sprays. You're always supposed to wipe down the equipment before and after you use it. And that's a smart idea to really think about. So play it safe, be with your family, have a good time, and everything should be okay. We've got some things that are coming down the pike here, and actually 2 companies now with vaccines. Now the vaccine, it's not going to happen today, and it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen the 1st of December. So let's just keep praying about that and looking forward to that, to getting the vaccine out, but just play it smart. All right, folks, that's about all the time that I have for today. Thank you for tuning in. Again, go to YouTube, hit the like, hit the subscribe. We're going up every day with a new and different program, harried and carried and everything in between. I want to hear from you. By the way, you can write to me, P.O. Box 1012, Atlantic Beach, North Carolina, 28512. That's P.O. Box 1012. Atlantic Beach, North Carolina, 28512. I would love to hear from you. We got plenty of new and exciting things about to happen here on the program, so stay tuned. All right, guys, appreciate it.